My name is Nina Kositsky and I represent University of Massachusetts at Amherst, USA. The presentation is titled Reading as a Device Business, Implications for an E-Book Age. This is a presentation for the International Conference of the Book. Since the advent of the printing press in the mid-15th century, texts have been primarily stored in and disseminated through the medium of the book. This may explain why the terms print culture and book culture are often used interchangeably. The reported steady increase in e-book sales suggests that we are witnessing the waning of print culture, as the book as a physical object is becoming replaced by its sleek counterparts, electronic devices of various kinds. As reading migrates from print to digital, it increasingly becomes a device business. Consequently, discussions of the reading experience different devices offer to its users have become a salient part of today's public discourse at different levels, from consumer comments to academic papers. Most prevalent themes of these debates are technical characteristics of various devices, their special features, and the degree to which they allow multifunctionality, as illustrated on this slide. This presentation, however, discusses non-technical criteria for matching technology with a desirable reading experience. The degree of immersion in a textual world a particular device encourages, the work of imagination it requires, the type of interactivity it encourages. During his presentation on how publishers might capitalize on new possibilities of digital technologies, Penguin Book CO announced last year that the company will be embedding audio, video, and gaming into everything they do. The definition of the book itself is up for grabs. This announcement reflects the publishing industry's awareness of the need to keep up with the technical progress in order to appeal to the modern reader and therefore to survive. However, before redefining the book, it is helpful to establish what the book has been in the past few centuries. Traditionally, the book has been a medium that encourages a long-form discourse and a holistic mode of reading. As Kress put it, whether as novel or as scientific treatise, the book presents an integral, coherent account of a world. However, we need to acknowledge that the book underwent an evolution to become the coherent means of communication as we know it. In 1455, Gutenberg invented the printing press, but not the book as we know it. It took 50 years of experimentation and more to establish such conventions as legible typefaces and proof sheet corrections, page numbering and paragraphing, and title pages, prefaces, and chapter divisions, which together made the published book a coherent means of communication. In addition, inherent characteristics of paper-based text, the fact that they're static, unchanging, silent, makes the interaction with a printed text figurative, not literal, because it is entirely one-sided. Since paper-based texts are static and inert, the entire responsibility of activity falls on the reader. New digital technologies offer us a new kind of book and new ways to write and read. An e-book, which is essentially a multimodal artifact offering a non-holistic reading experience that is literally interactive. Digital text can create a reading experience that is literally interactive, which means the transactions of readers with hyperlinked digital text are physical events. Readers of digital texts are often presented with the opportunity to select from among and to juxtapose a variety of symbolic representations in the process of reading. Not only must readers sometimes select from among various media that are available, but they must make a more explicit choice about when it would be most appropriate to do so. Readers can provide their input and have access to input of other readers, for example, through the popular highlight feature, public note sharing, or through participation in online discussions with other readers. Readers actively navigate through a network of text nodes to build their own reading path, which makes them co-constructors of the written work in a more literal sense. Levy considers hypertextualization the opposite of reading in the sense that it produces from an initial text a textual reserve and instrument of composition with which the navigator can project a multitude of other texts. Interacting with the textual reserve can be a qualitatively different experience compared to reading a coherent conventional text. As Ryan put it, if text is a mass substance rather than a discrete object, there is no need to read it in its totality. The reader produced by the electronic reading machine will therefore be more inclined to gaze at the surface of text rather than to immerse himself in a textual world or to probe the mind of an author. The term immersion has been used to describe any kind of intensely enjoyable, absorbing activity, from mountain climbing to playing a musical instrument. In the context of this discussion, however, the term is used to describe a specific type of immersion, the state of a deep, focused engagement in a textual world. Thus, although web browsing can be an immersive activity, it may not necessarily involve the reader's immersion in any particular text he or she encounters. On the other hand, an e-book that integrates sound, image, video, and animation that are directly related to one particular text may in fact increase the state of immersion experienced by the reader. Purely verbal means of conveying an experience of space of a certain historical, cultural, and social context may seem inferior to the power of visual and auditory input to directly involve the reader's senses. So, in terms of the degree of immersion in a textual world different devices allow, the following considerations seem appropriate. Any device specifically designed for reading will provide a more immersive reading experience than any multi-purpose technology. The sheer availability of additional activities on a multi-purpose device seems to encourage the reader to steer away from the text he or she is reading, to check an email or Facebook, browse the internet, or play a game. The findings reported by Kaiser Family Foundation in 2010 show that people multitask the most while on the computer. The computer is the multitasking station because of its accessibility to other computer activities. Print media, on the other hand, were found to be among the least multitasked of all various media. My own research has confirmed that simple e-readers with no access to the internet, such as the Amazon Kindle, provide an immersive, distraction-free reading experience that encourages long-form reading. Numerous informal reports of reading experiences on various digital devices confirm the correlation between their multifunctionality and less immersion into the textual world of the book the user is reading. Here is one report that is quite representative of iPad readers' experiences. Another big issue I had with reading the e-book chapters was that, since they were on the iPad, I was always tempted to navigate away, to check an email, browse the web, or look for another book on the iBook store. This short attention span of mine only existed while I was reading on the iPad and not from the paperback, which means it wasn't the story's fault that I was so tempted to navigate away. Reading and imagination applied to print conventional text. According to Kress, words are, relatively speaking, empty of meaning. The word needs to be filled with meaning. The imaginative work in writing focuses on filling words with meaning and then reading the filled elements together in the given syntactic structure. For either, the creative work of reading is the coming together of text and the reader's imagination. The reader often feels involved in events which at the time of reading seemed real to him, even though, in fact, they are very far from his own reality. The fact that completely different readers can be differently affected by the reality of a particular text is ample evidence of the degree to which literary texts transform reading into a creative process that is far above mere perception of what is written. The literary text activates our own faculties, enabling us to recreate the world it presents. When we read, we visualize characters of a novel virtually for ourselves, and our imagination senses a wide range of possibilities. Multimodal reading experience, however, significantly differs from conventional reading in terms of the work done by our imagination. The reader of a digital text can rely on the resources supplied by the creators of a particular multimodal book application. Greater reliance on external resources makes reading a multimodal text a less active process compared to reading a conventional text. For instance, a video integrated into an amplified novel eliminates the need for creating mental imagery of relevant passages on the part of the reader. And another reader reflecting on his reading experience. When I read War and Peace, I don't want to hear an actor reciting Bezukhov's lines. I want to read them for myself and add my own thoughts and conjecture to what he's saying and why he's saying it. When I watch a movie or listen to an audiobook, very little is left to the imagination. Our active involvement becomes passive acceptance. Therefore, text-only books with their limited sensory input stimulate readers' imagination by making them responsible for creating a mental representation of the story they are reading. Ryan emphasizes that while color and form are inherent to images, thoughts, ideas, and mental representations are not inherent to the graphic or phonic marks of written texts. They must therefore be constructed through an activity far more transformative than interpreting sensory data. However, the question is, when can the reader benefit from multimodal books? The answer depends on the reader's age, the reader's educational, cultural, and social background, and the content of the book itself. The younger the child, the more he or she will benefit from images and sounds that complement the text. Young children's personal experiences and their knowledge of the world are limited, and pictures help them build the story in their mind and expand their imagination as well as their worldview. Older children and adults can better imagine what the worlds and the stories they read look like. To be able to create a mental representation of the textual world, the reader needs to be able to recognize the nuances of the depicted cultural, historical, and social contexts, such as attires, hairstyles, architecture, scenery, and mannerisms. The more knowledgeable the reader is about the context, the less benefit he or she will have from externally provided visual and auditory contextual clues. The content of the book itself can determine the benefit for the reader. Multimodal nonfiction books, such as history or science texts, can enrich readers' knowledge of the world and their imagination. An example is the best-selling book Nixonland, which was first published in hardcover but then transformed into a multimodal version. It has 27 videos integrated into it. One video is new. It's an interview with the author. Most are news clips from events described in the book, including the Nixon-Kennedy debates in 1960 and public reaction to the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The availability of various symbol systems in a digital text makes reading it a scaffolded experience. Different modalities it employs aid comprehension. This feature, some researchers suggest, might encourage and enable readers to tackle more challenging texts. Children's books, foreign and second language educational materials, textbooks have long benefited from multimodal representations of meaning. To conclude, as reading migrates from print to digital, it increasingly becomes a device business. While considerations of a technical nature in regards to what reading hardware to choose play an important role, they should not overshadow concerns about the process of reading. It has been suggested that evaluating reading devices on the basis of immersion in a textual world they encourage, opportunities for figurative and literal interaction with the text they provide, and the work of imagination they involve, can be helpful for matching technology with a desirable reading experience for each particular reader. Thank you.